Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the God Cells podcast. I'm Eric Merola. Today is April 5th, 2020, and we are well into the COVID-19 pandemic. I sincerely hope you and your family are safe and healthy during these unprecedented times. Today's guest is Lily, who was diagnosed with Lyme disease a few years back and was treated using fetal stem cells in the fall of 2019 and found relief from her Lyme symptoms. I recorded this conversation on March 13th. It goes without saying that any plans to travel to MCell in Ukraine to continue my coverage of their work and production on the sequel of the God Cells has been put on hold until COVID-19 becomes more manageable. In episode 10 of this podcast series, the next one, released in a week or so, I will explain how fetal stem cell therapy could potentially be added protection for anyone who contracts the virus, given the extraordinary immune-boosting properties of the therapy and the types of fetal stem cells injected into you, namely the fetal liver cells, which at the time of harvesting are the foundation for the body's bone marrow and thus our entire immune system. If you want to be alerted of my new podcasts and are not on my mailing list, you can simply visit ericmerola.com, that's ERICMEROLA.com, and sign up. I only send emails once a month at the most when I release a new podcast or have something important to share. I hope you enjoy episode 9 of the God Cells podcast with me and Lily.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, Lily.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
Pretty crazy time we're living in.
I know.
I don't mean to laugh. It's
we're all getting ready to get locked down with the coronavirus here in Pennsylvania.
Yes. My trip in April has been canceled, and a lot of patients who were going to meet me there, and people I was going to film. And I just got word this morning that Ukraine's border in 48 hours is going to be locked down for 2 weeks. I think they're one of the few countries with hardly any cases. I guess they're just...
Yeah, I was going to say, did they have any there?
Well, according to the Johns Hopkins, map, I don't know if you've looked at this link, there's only one case, but, I wonder with the shortages of test kits worldwide, how accurate that really is. But yeah, so you were diagnosed with Lyme, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was bitten by 2 ticks, one in 2015 and one in 2017. And I got Lyme disease in 2015. I took the antibiotics and recovered. The second tick I got bit, I came down with Lyme disease again, and I recovered. But then a few months later, I started to get these strange headaches and weird rashes on my face and stuff. And, I never really felt well. And then shortly after that, probably about 6-7 months after that, I got this horrible vertigo attack. And that freaked me out because I had never had vertigo before. And then all these weird neurological symptoms started happening. And then they said I had mono and Epstein-Barr and all these other things. So I wasn't really sure. I really don't know what it was. It all stemmed from this tick bite. So it could have been Lyme. It could have been one of the co-infections like Bartonella, because a lot of the times it's not just Lyme. There's other things when these ticks bite you. There's these other strains of different bacteria and viruses that can get into you, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty desperate at that point because the doctors couldn't help me. Even the Lyme literate doctors were like, here, take these antibiotics for the rest of your life and maybe you'll get better, maybe you won't. But it really wasn't helping. So I was just researching on the internet. I came across your God Cells documentary, and I think I had emailed you a couple of times prior to that talking to you about it. Mainly, I went for the neurological symptoms. I was having a lot of neuropathy in my feet, dizziness, vertigo. That were kind of the main things that really were not going away.
So you had neuropathy in your feet, some dizziness. They just weren't going away.
Yeah, and I became disabled. Like I couldn't walk, I couldn't drive. I was so weak. I had like this muscle weakness. My hands. It wasn't like Parkinson's. It was kind of just like my fingers would twitch weird. Mm-hmm. I didn't have Parkinson's, but it almost seemed like it was Parkinson's because sometimes my fingers and stuff would just twitch, and I had no control of this weird twitching. And, it's just weird and that's typical with Lyme. You get these weird symptoms that you can't really explain. And anybody with Lyme will tell you that, sometimes one day you'll wake up and you'll be fine, and the next day, you've got some other kind of weird symptom that pops up, and then that goes away and something else pops up. It's kind of elusive.
Right.
And then, that's when I had talked to you about it, because I wasn't sure about, Ukrainian Airlines. I was kind of like, oh, is this, I've heard bad things about this airline, but you said no, they were great. And they were. The flight attendants were great. The food was great. The airplane was clean. It was on time.
Yeah.
No issues. And even at JFK, I was running late, and I thought, oh, I'm going to miss my flight because I had gotten stuck in traffic. And they're like, oh, don't worry. We'll hold the plane for you. You're in business class or whatever. We weren't going to take off without you. And I'm like, really? I was shocked at the customer service. It was so good.
Yeah. So, they're not bad. For anybody listening, if you fly Ukraine, the trick is don't have layovers. So for direct from JFK to KBP is the trick. They do lose luggage. That's where a lot of their bad reputation comes from. And I have had luggage lost by doing connecting flights with them. That's really the only downside. They don't have 24-hour phone service, but they whatever. Yeah, but I
did everything online, so I had no issues with anything. If I asked a question, I think I emailed them through their website, and they got right back to me.
Yeah, then that's the way to do it. But for the price for business class with a bed, you can't beat it. I mean, it's worth it.
I know it was. Even the premium economy was still, it was okay, but I mean, I couldn't imagine that. I mean, it was like 9-hour flight, so
yeah, I
couldn't imagine being crushed back there for that long a time. But I mean, people were doing it, obviously.
My first trip there was economy. I don't think I flew Ukraine, but I still did the ridiculous economy all the way. Yeah, from LA.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Well, I saw your God cells, and I saw the people with. I thought maybe there was some underlying autoimmune thing going on, not diagnosed. I don't have a diagnosis of any autoimmune thing going on, but it does run in my family. So I thought, well, my mom had died from complications with lupus a couple of years prior. So I said, oh, maybe I've got some underlying thing going on that, I wasn't really tested for. So I said, I'm just going to go get the stem cells. I'll tell them my symptoms. It was mainly going for neurological treatment. I told them all of my neurological symptoms, the dizziness, the vertigo, all of that kind of stuff were my main. The neuropathy in my legs and feet were really bothering me. Mm-hmm. So, they basically said if it's structural, like something in your back, like if it's a skeletal problem or, a structure with bones, they're like, we really can't help you. It's not going to do anything.
Right.
So I said, okay, fine. I'll still do it because, it would rejuvenate the rest of my organs, hopefully. And then, I went there, and Sergey was great. He was my driver and my helper at the airport and everything. Yeah. Great guy, spoke English, really nice guy.
He's my guy too. He's my favorite. Yeah.
He's super nice, super helpful. I got there, he was right there waiting for me at the airport, picked me up, really nice, brand new Volvo. Took me right to my hotel. The hotel was great. I think it was the Senator. Yep. Senator Maiden is called.
Senator Maiden, yeah.
Really, really nice hotel, really quiet. I'm very sensitive to noise, and I don't sleep well, so I was worried about it being noisy, and it was completely really quiet. Really nice hotel, good breakfast in the morning. Yeah, it was a great experience. They came and picked me up from my hotel every day, brought me to the clinic every day. The doctors were there. Everybody spoke English. The translators were excellent. I had no question, didn't have a hard time understanding anything that they were doing. I was afraid at first, and did a good job because I was worried about, the shots in the stomach and stuff like that, but it was a little, it hurt a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. It went away.
Yeah.
So I would do it again, it wasn't that is painful as I thought it was going to be. So.
Well, yeah, I'm there again. Well, I was supposed to be there in April, May, and June again, but I don't know with this coronavirus what's going to happen. I think my April trip has already been canceled as far as the airlines go. So, but tell me, I'm really obviously, so like neuropathy is something I hear a lot that tends to go away. I know from both of my parents that have had it. their neuropathy went away. Like,
Mine wasn't I wasn't diabetic. I know your dad had gotten it done or something for his feet, right?
Yeah,
The
correct.
diabetic neuropathy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was causing mine. And a lot of times with Lyme disease, there is weird neuropathy or weird tingling in your hands and feet, and you have no way of knowing where it's coming from. So I thought maybe, the Lyme or the Bartonella or one of those co-infections maybe damaged something in my brain, and it's maybe the stem cells would rejuvenate it. Because supposedly the Lyme, I've heard it eats the nerve sheaths, the nerve endings, and then so it causes that kind of weird nerve pain.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was working for it. Tylenol, I could take Tylenol, I could take Advil, nothing was touching this nerve pain. It was not even dissipating it a little bit, and it was really getting annoying. So I went and got the treatment, came home. I felt really good the first couple of days. I felt really good after I went in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. That really kind of brought me back to life a couple of times. And then I went home, and I didn't really feel anything. I thought, well, it was worth a shot. I was willing to spend the money to get my body rejuvenated. I didn't really feel a whole lot in the beginning.
Right.
I didn't feel, I know, like, some people are just like, oh, I went out and I ran a marathon. That didn't happen with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it took about, I would say, probably into the third to fourth month, I started to feel better. The neuropathy started to fade in my legs, and I started to feel a little more energy. I was able to hike up the mountain by my house here. I went all the way to the top and came back down, which is a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't run any marathons. I didn't get that kind of energy. But I was able to do a lot more in my daily life. I wasn't getting these pains in the bottom of my legs when I would kneel down to pick something up. I was getting my I think it might have been some kind of circulation issue in my lower legs that I was having a problem. So I was getting pains in my calves and stuff, and that doesn't happen anymore. I can kneel down, like, to get the clothes out of the dryer and stuff like that. It doesn't hurt anymore. So a little more mental clarity. I was able to, pay attention, speak better, think better. That's pretty much it. There was nothing that really, and the neuropathy is pretty much mostly gone now. Every once in a while, if I stand on my feet too long, or if I have a long flight and I'm working it, I'll feel kind of a little bit of pain at the end of the day, but that's normal.
Yeah,
for me.
That is totally normal. How about the vertigo?
The vertigo is gone.
Okay.
The dizziness is pretty much gone. Like I said, when I get tired, or, like I said, I have a really long day or a long flight and I'm dehydrated, I might feel a little bit of dizziness, not vertigo, but just a little, because I'd have this feeling of, like, not dizziness, but like just not feeling, my equilibrium was not perfect.
Right.
It was just, there was something going on with my ears, and I don't know the inner ear stuff. And I went for treatment for vertigo, physical therapy, but that wasn't helping. It wasn't doing anything. So, the vertigo is gone now. I don't have it at all anymore. I think it may have been related to some kind of candida infection in my right ear, but I'm not positive. I don't really know, because I had also started taking some, after the stem cells, shortly after started taking some different anti-yeast kind of fungal supplements and things like that. So, and it cleared up after that. So I'm not sure if it was the stem cells or that, but I seem to get better after the stem cells. So
that's great, because they always tell you give it 3 months to start noticing things.
Yeah, it took a while with me. It definitely took a while, and I'm in the 9th month now. I think it's been 9 months, and I'm still okay. I'm still, my energy's waning a little bit now, but I'm still functioning fine. I'm working. I have a 7-year-old. I'm taking care of him, so I'm able to do everything that I need to do. Whereas before, I was really struggling to even keep up, to get to work, and just every day doing just everyday stuff like cooking dinner and laundry, that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, because like some people have really quick responses, and especially like for me, because I went without needing to go for any specific ailment. Like it was within a month I started noticing this sort of like recharge with everything that you mentioned, mental clarity, energy, and everything. But you're a perfect testament to why they always say 3 months. Like whatever needed to go on inside of you needed 3 months of those things grafting and multiplying before you noticed it. It seems so counterintuitive. You're like, because after, I don't blame you. You're like, after a month, you're like, okay, well, it was worth a shot.
I was like, after a month, I'm like, oh, I hope they're going to work. It's like, I hope I didn't waste all that money. And, but it was like, you know what? I felt like I was dying. So at that point, I didn't care how much money I spent. At that point, I would have mortgaged my house if I had to get the treatment. If it, because I didn't have any other options. There were no other options for me. So this was kind of like my last hope. To get something done, because mainstream medicine didn't have anything for me, and even the alternative Lyme doctors couldn't really help me. They can give me herbs and they can try new treatments and stuff like that, but
well, that's kind of why I continue following their work and this story, because it's just like there's so many people that have tried everything and there's just nothing left. It's obviously really sad when they do spend the money on this last resort and it doesn't do anything for them, at least what they were hoping. But yeah,
that is sad.
Yeah, but at least that's kind of what I do, and it's just let people know that there is this thing out there. And a lot of people have gone there for various reasons, and this was something that gave them relief. It's not cheap. I have to go a long way, but I'm really glad to hear it. Like as far as like the circulatory issues you mentioned earlier, I'm sure but one of the great things about the cells is that they build new small blood vessels and new capillaries throughout your entire body, which obviously for legs, it's really important. You're going to have better circulation. And that's one of the reasons I think it's so good for neuropathy and helps resolve that. And of course, I think that probably has something to do with the sharper mind and better focus. You're getting more oxygen to the brain as well. And as everyone gets older, all of that diminishes anyway. And this just gives you a whole new set of them. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm 47, so I was definitely feeling the decline with the age. I was definitely feeling.
Yeah, you and I are the same age, so yeah, I can speak for that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, not that I wasn't able to get things done before I started doing the cells in 2016, but I've been like a powerhouse. I mean, the fact that I'm juggling this, working, still following MCell patients, and then also working on this other movie that takes place in Europe, and then everything else in life without missing a beat. I mean, it's just crazy.
That's amazing that you're able to do all that. It's exhausting just hearing you stuff you're doing.
But it's also exciting, and plus I've also just been super happy since I started doing the cells. Like from a mental state, I've just been in such a good place. I haven't been sick once. Not even like a flu. I can't remember the last time I had a fever.
That's the other thing. I haven't been sick.
There you go. Yeah.
I have not been. My husband and my son, I have a kid in school, so they bring home all kinds of germs. They've got sinus infections and colds and everything. And I don't want to jinx myself now with this coronavirus, but
well, here's
hopefully I have not been sick at all since last winter.
Yeah, that alone is worth it. I mean, did I tell you that I walked around after my second treatment? I was at home for about, I don't know. It was only about a month after returning home in 2017 that I walked around for like 3 weeks with a sore throat, and it turned out I had strep and didn't know it. Did I tell you that?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
So I, 2017 got treatment number 2, and then off to my life I go, and then about a month later. So you're talking about maybe 2 months into it, but a month later I started getting a sore throat, but it was like nothing bothersome. I was just kept going about my business, and it wasn't like your typical sore throat, but it was just kind of there and sort of this nagging thing. I didn't have any other symptoms. I didn't have coughing. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have anything, but where enough time went by, a good 3 weeks, where I just I have an urgent care in walking distance. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just walk over there. I called them up and said, what's your waiting list like? Or what, they said, oh, you can get right in if you, I told them I live nearby. I go in, they swab my throat, and they looked at me, and then they were like, you have strep. Like, excuse me? like how long have you had these? 3 weeks. And they couldn't believe it. And so, of course, they had no choice really at that point to give me an antibiotic. But the point is, I really attribute that to the cells. I walked around symptom-free with the exception of this tiny little sore throat thing. And I've had strep. It's hideous. You're laid out.
It really hurts in
Yeah.
your throat.
And so that combined with this coronavirus, as you mentioned, understanding the science behind it, if it's accurate, where the virus gets in and starts destroying your lung cells, the regenerative power of the cells, I can't think of a better way to fight against that. I'm not saying fight against getting it. Getting it is something, you can't really avoid if you're exposed to it, but the regenerative power of the cells, because the lungs are such big organs, and they give you some respiratory and lung cells, not to mention all the cardiac cells that, like I'm looking forward to getting there this year, again, mainly with that thought in mind, because if I end up with a virus, which we have like a 50-50 chance now of getting, nothing could be a better sort of safeguard and armor to have these cells constantly rejuvenating your lungs while the virus is trying to destroy them. So it's great, especially for older people. But the problem now is, of course, getting there because of the travel restrictions.
Right.
Yeah.
If they shut down all the air travel, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about lung stuff, one other benefit I had from the stem cells was I've always been kind of chemically sensitive to like strong smells and perfume, car exhaust and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really bothered me. They would give me headaches, and like some things I would start choking like if I smelled car exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't have that anymore. I mean, I'm still a little bit sensitive. I still don't like strong perfumes or hairspray and stuff like that. But I can tolerate it now, whereas before I would be choking and couldn't even be in the same room with someone that was wearing really strong perfume or anything like that. And the car exhaust in jet fuel, which I'm around a lot, the smell of burning jet fuel, it was really bothering me. And now I still don't like the smell of it, but I can tolerate it now. So it's interesting how the cells make you stronger in ways that, like these subtle ways that you don't really notice.
Yeah, because
you realize I'm not coughing up a lung because I smelled car exhaust or something like that.
Right. It's remarkable how subtle it is, because it's biology. Like if you get a headache and pop a Tylenol, your headache generally goes away fairly quickly. If you have a hideous cold and you're just sniveling and sneezing and you're having trouble sleeping, NyQuil usually knocks that out. Of course, it's just a Band-Aid, but quickly. But the cells are so slow and gradual. It's just so hard for people to wrap their head around. But that's also what I think is so interesting. This year will be my fifth treatment. And so I've gotten used to like what to expect, and but it never ceases to surprise me. Weeks later, month or two later, like, wow, that's different.
Yeah,
it's
and
cool.
I didn't even realize that happened until the other day when I had started my car up, and it's when the car first starts, it really smells kind of bad before the fuel starts burning clean. I wasn't choking at all.
That's great.
I mean, I was like, wow, I inhaled like a big gulp of it because I was in the back of my car. So I don't know how long that was going on for. I mean, it could have been. I just noticed it now, 9 months into the treatment. So
wow.
We'll see how long it lasts. I don't know. They actually recommended when I was there. The doctor said you probably have to come back in 9 to 12 months for another treatment. That's what they told me.
And that's a recommendation. So, obviously, you don't have to, but yeah, I mean,
right.
That's absolutely. Are there any other? Do you go to a regular doctor at all? I ask because I was wondering if there's any blood tests that have changed or any sort of like things that you can measure.
You know what? I haven't had to go to the doctor. I haven't really been sick, or haven't had any issues. But I don't really have any blood work now to back up anything that I'm saying.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten. Occasionally I'll get my vitamin D or my B12 levels checked, but that's about it.
Well, I guess that's a good thing if you haven't needed to go to the doctor.
Yeah, so. I really haven't. I haven't had any real issues with anything. So I haven't. Like I said, I haven't even gone to just not my Lyme doctor or my regular doctor. I haven't had a cold, no infections, nothing. I'm good. I've been good. Like I said, hopefully with this everything going on, we stay healthy. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, just the lack. I know. I mean, yeah. Just to not have to deal with that sort of annual cold, flu anymore. That alone is worth it.
Right. And this has been like the only year I haven't, normally every year I get something in the wintertime, whether it's, an ear infection or sinus infection or something like that, but I haven't had any of that so far.
It's remarkable, isn't it? It's just crazy.
It is. Yeah. I usually, and especially with having a young one that's bringing home all this stuff from the little kids coming home, because he's been sick a couple of times this year already with stuff. So I'm like, I'm waiting just to get it. So, but I have not gotten anything. But like I said, my husband's going to be going for the stem cell treatment, I think, for his knee.
Okay.
So when the airlines start working again over there, so we'll see. He's a bit older than me. He's in his 60s, so he definitely needs a lot of regenerative things. He has a knee problem, so that he would actually need a knee replacement in mainstream medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm hoping the stem cells can help his knee.
Yeah, it probably will to some degree, but it can't replace, I know nobody wants to do surgery, but it can't replace something that would require surgery, unfortunately. I mean, it can just only regenerate the existing cartilage, make it real flexible again, probably relieve inflammation and things like that. But depending on the structural problems with the knee, I mean, it can't, totally fix that entirely.
I understand.
Yeah. But obviously, let me know. I mean, would you guys go together if you did it?
I don't know. We'd have to find out, because it's so expensive. It's probably only going to be one going, because to have two, that's way too expensive.
Well, obviously let me know, because I'm going to be, again, I was supposed to be there like every month back to back for a week, April, May, and June. All that's going to be pushed back now until this, but I mean, it would be great. I mean, I'd like to meet him and I can show him around. We'd stay at the same hotel, just like with you.
So that'd be great. He'd like that.
Cool.
He's interested in the whole stem cell thing. Just money wise, it's just been really, tight with things. So
of course.
We're trying to save up for it.
No, it's not easy, really. It's not cheap. And now with this whole market going sideways, it's just doesn't help either. Yeah.
Well, with M-Cell, and my sister is in this boat as well, because she has a back injury and is looking into and possibly getting stem cells in this country, which are not fetal stem cells and don't work as well. I tell people, like, it's the wave of the future. You can't, I mean, there are it's even in this country with the cells that are available with M-Cell, you're getting the best of the best, you can't, when you have no other option, if you have, autoimmune disease, which they can't do anything for, or all of these other diseases like Parkinson's and the damage that Lyme disease does to bodies and things like that, there's no better way than to go with stem cells. And even if there isn't anything wrong with you, if you're getting older and you're feeling those aches and pains in your body and, things are happening, just from age-related decline, I mean, you got to go get stem cells. I mean, it regenerates everything in your body. You just feel better. Everybody's going that way. It seems every day I see more articles and more advertisements for stem cells. And, I don't see M-Cell advertising at all.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't have to, right? I mean, they've got enough people coming just on their word of mouth, they don't need to advertise.
There's a few reasons
over there. It's like top doctors, top everything, the best of the best doctors, the best care, the clinic's beautiful. I would just highly recommend it. Just from being there.
You're aware that there's a brand new clinic now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I did see that. I was still there during the old clinic was still being, the new clinic was still being built. They were still in the old one, but the old one was beautiful too.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, the beauty of these cells, I mean, the stem cells has become sort of the Wild West, almost gold rush. And unfortunately, most people just see the term stem cells and they sort of put it in all to one category. But with fetal, you're getting the building blocks of the entire human body at the, harvested at the end of the first trimester versus the adult cells in America, which, are fine for a lot of things, like, for simple things like inflammation and pain and maybe some joint injuries. There's some good results out there. There's no question. But it's sort of like apples and oranges when you compare your own cells being spun, which are just from your blood or your fat. And, it's easier for those cells to kind of become a muscle cell or deal with inflammation. But if you have a cardiac issue or nerve problems or, Parkinson's. I mean, those are not really going to do anything. And you mentioned Parkinson's. This is important. I mean, I've been talking about this, and so have they, for a long time, but they started doing this. They are starting to use epidural injections, injecting the neuronal cells right into the spinal canal for Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, spinal cord injuries. And this is new. They started doing this in November. They've been doing it, testing it for a while, but they finally started offering it. And one guy who I'm going to have on, by the way, I'm going to include this in the new documentary. I decided to broaden it beyond just type 2 diabetes. Just seeing all the other things that are going on, I decided to shift gears. That's kind of what we all do when I try to take projects. Things change. I'm still including type 2, but I can't not cover the spinal injections. So this one guy who had been going for Parkinson's 2 years in a row, had the traditional sort of protocol you and I had, but he had the spinal injections in December, and he said it was a huge difference. He was driving like heavy equipment. He's like I guess he does construction. He was able to operate the excavator again. All these things he hasn't done in a while. He said he kept going back because it obviously helped him, but not like this. So this is really super exciting. But you talked about the fact they don't advertise. It's not just that. Not only do they not need to, I mean, they basically have a monopoly on this just by default because it's the only country on Earth.
So they have the patents on this stuff, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, there's other competing Ukraine clinics with fetal stem cells on the door, but they can't harvest them. They get them from like the black market of India. It's terrible. MCell, but also MCell, they don't want to be salesmen. I mean, with the Wild West, everybody, come get our stem cells. They just don't. They don't believe in that. They not only do they have enough clientele, but they're just honest scientists that believe in what they're doing. They put their focus in the research and treating people, not in, putting billboards up and, you know what I mean? That's another reason why I sort of fell in love with them. I just couldn't believe the integrity in these folks. Just
and
incredible.
I look at it this way: if it didn't work and they weren't as good as they say they are, all these people wouldn't be going back there,
right?
Because it's expensive. It's not something that you just do. I mean, at least for me, it's not something that you just do because you feel like it. You know, it's a long flight and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And unless you're super rich, I mean, it's not something you would just be doing randomly just because you feel like it.
And all of their clients travel from from Asia through Europe, throughout the United States, everywhere, Canada, repeatedly. I mean, every year. Not all of them, but people that can afford it and where it works. And not to mention, if it didn't work. They've been doing this since the 90s. They started in a one-room hospital in a state hospital.
And all of these people would be online, and there would be all these people saying, "Oh, this place is a scam. It doesn't work," and whatever. Right. But I've seen nothing but good stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one negative review anywhere. Nothing negative said about it. And I did my research before I went.
Sure.
So I didn't find not one negative thing about them anywhere.
And then you couple that with the fact they just erected a brand new $10 million lab and facility and clinic facility. With their own money. There's no bank loans, from what I understand, using the money that they had saved, to reinvest in themselves. And the new lab was built from the ground up and will be, not that it will do them any good, other than it just sort of looks good and it's just good. Well, it does everybody good, but they are hiring consultants from Europe to make sure the lab is up to Food and Drug Administration's standards, so at least they have that in case somehow one day it does progress. Since they built the lab from the ground up, they had consultants to go, okay, build it this way. This would be legal in the U.S. if fetal stem cells were allowed. This is what we would consider okay. That we would check off all the marks to say, okay, this can go to clinical trial, for example, because your lab meets our standards, for example. So that's cool. I mean, they wouldn't be doing that if it didn't work, So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right. So, all right, if you decide to go, obviously, like I said earlier, this year, let me know. We'll see how this coronavirus thing pans out. But it's super exciting, Lily, because we had met like a lot of people, and then we ended up meeting each other in Kyiv. Like you said, we had dinner, and this is our first time we've spoken verbally since I saw you last June. And it's fun. I don't know when I'll ever stop doing this. I'm looking forward to continuing to go there. And not to mention, I'm working on another movie that I've been working on for a while, but I'm really focusing full time on it this year to get it done. But I'm glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, it's exciting work. I'm looking forward to your work and your second documentary. It's been quite an adventure.
Yeah, it has been. And who knows, maybe we'll see each other sometime this year at the new clinic. Who knows if we're able to swing
that
it.
would be
So.
great.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. And I look forward to staying in touch with you.
All right, great. Take care.
You too. Please tune in to episode 10 of the God Cells podcast, which will be released on April 10th at the latest, where I will discuss how and why fetal stem cells not only protect you from extreme harm from pathogens like bacteria and viruses, but also potentially against the life-threatening symptoms of COVID-19. I'm Eric Merola. I'll see you next time.